Hello everyone, this is Mana Chats. Welcome to my first sort of impressions on Asterigos on my Should You Play series. Should you play this? Well, yeah. I'm going to give this a really solid yes, especially at the asking price. It's not too expensive. It's not a full $60 game. I've been playing it for about 23 hours already, and I am really enjoying it. There's a lot of variation in how you can play. I like the main character. I like the dialogue, I like the setting, I like the overall feel. Now you might ask, what makes this really worth it? Well, I think the easiest summary is this. It's kind of like a casual Dark Souls. I know. Everyone's gonna say, another Dark Souls-like, another, roll around, don't get hit thing, build up your +5 great sword, colossal sword thing, and just one-hit things. No, not like that. It's that sort of casual Dark Souls people ask for very often, I think. It has this sort of, I almost want to say like PS2 adventure game presence, which I've missed for a while. It's got nice fantasy elements. It's mostly lighthearted, but it does have some darker themes underneath if you start paying attention to some of the lore and you start really looking into what's going on. But in general, it's got this really nice fantasy vibe. It has a lot of different areas. So, there's your typical sewers. There's this kind of Greek/Roman styled academy. There's some deep mines with an evil that lurks below. There's kind of like the slummy back streets. And right now I'm in this, more ruined area. I was surprised at how many areas there were because I cleared out 3 main ones that were presented to me as my main missions, and then 3 or 4 more opened up. So I'm very excited for that, and that's at hour 23. So there's definitely plenty of content to sink your teeth into. And when I say casual Dark Souls for this, what I mean is it's not so punishing. Like, yeah, if you sit around and you let yourself get hit, you're gonna feel it. You're gonna probably start to regret it. But in general, I really find that the game is pretty balanced about not overly punishing you. So you might get hit by something, and it won't be the end of you right away. You will need to react, but it's going to be okay. I think I just found a boss. All right, well, this is a good, quick discovery thing here. You're going to see I have some magic. I'm playing this in real time. I've never run into this guy before, but he probably won't be too hard. You can see I have some decent iframes. I have a stamina meter. My weapons right now are a dagger and a staff. So I have, some speedy close range gap closers. I'm gonna do something here. This is a transformation state for my weapon, which I'm pretty sure makes me invulnerable through the duration. Okay, invulnerability over. Now I have magic, I can switch my elements. I'm gonna try and use ice. You'll see how my ice attacks are a little slower, but they do kind of like repeated damage as they go through the enemy, which is good for an enemy that stands still for a little bit. And every time I do a hit, I gain more magic power for stronger magic attacks, which is pretty helpful. I'll pull a potion here. Let's show off a different magic spell. Oh, nope, I won. Huh. Goodbye, Mr. Deer. Well, that was a good quick example that I didn't mean to run into, but I didn't do exceptionally well in that combat since I was trying to show off a few things, but let's discuss, because this is a good time to do that. So I have a basic combo with my daggers here. I'm just spamming my square button to do that. I also have a basic combo with my magic. Every single one has this kind of fourth thing that's a much bigger attack. In this case, it's a very slow ice ball. With fire, it drops a meteor. It also does more direct damage, so every hit will be a little more damaging, rather than the ice, which is over time. Thunder does this, which is, I believe, 2 lightning strikes. No, 3. And then there's an arcane one, which has this kind of like tracking effect on it a little bit. Functionally, they have a very similar purpose. Like, the playstyle doesn't change that much based on them, but you can do some interesting things with them. Most weapons have a charge up attack, so in this case I can do a sort of beam, which you can kind of see there. With my daggers, I can do this sort of charge up attack, which is quite powerful. My daggers also get my element effect on them. And then my daggers also offer me a special attack. Every weapon has a special attack for my daggers. The special attack is this sort of charge forward where I have a bunch of iframes and I can follow up with an attack. With my staff, it's this aiming mode, which I can power up and do a really heavy hit. You know, that seems kind of basic, but it's more handy than you'd imagine. And then the fun thing is how you can combine the abilities. So I can do a dagger hit into a staff hit, and it gives me a nice dodge back and a pretty big hit. And after that, I can go back to a dagger strike, so I can do a dodge away, go back to a dagger strike, and that's a gap closer. I could also do magic into that gap closer depending on how I'm combining my attacks. You only have so many weapons, so in this case, I can show you that I have like sword and shield and a hammer. These are two different things as well. I'm going to work on the shield next and develop it a little bit. It has some cool things in it. But the shield has like a nice power bash attack on it. And then for its special, it's the guard, which does let you guard quite a few heavy hits. And you can unlock a parry-like maneuver with it. The hammer has big, heavy swings. I haven't unlocked its charge-up attack, nor have I unlocked the charge-up attack for the sword and shield. But the hammer does have this special mode where you do a charge and then you do a bunch of damage and knock things down usually. And then it can kind of combine. You can flow into the different weapons like so. So it's kind of cool. You can choose whatever two weapons you want to combine. I'll show you guys the trees in a second. I don't want to take too long on too many details because really I'm supposed to kind of entice you to try it yourself, I guess. Here's the spear and the bracelets. So the spear has some nice range on it, which you can make even better. I know there's a toss with a spear that you can do. The spear also does this little flippy thing, which is actually a parry. So it's your big parry counterattack weapon. The bracelets are this kind of close range magic thing, which have this really kind of fun combo. They, of course, change based on the elements, much like the staff does. So I'm just going to show off a few of those. And of course, I can combine it with a spear. I don't know if that'd be a great combination or not. And the special for the bracers is putting a magic landmine in the ground, which I didn't find terribly interesting, which is why I didn't go with it. But it might be better than I think. Okay. So that shows off all the different weapons. I've only really upgraded 2, as you can see. I'm starting to look at the sword and shield, but I haven't unlocked its talents, because this game does let you unlock talents for your weapons. So you can see here, this is kind of the talent tree. I'm going to show the whole view in a second here. I pushed the wrong button. So if I look at my, not my perks, my skills, not my skills, my talent points, of course, I'm looking all over the wrong places. You have a different set of trees here. This looks like it's bigger than what it really ends up being, because basically you're only going to be using 2 of these trees at once. They offer you different talents for your weapon. So for example, with my daggers, I have I can choose my reverse jump slash. So instead of having my charge up be a sort of forward attack, I can make my charge up a back attack. That's the first one you unlock, at least. You can see that I can get a follow-up to my sliding slash, which is its special. I get invulnerability duration on my sliding dodge. My last hit on dagger strikes does more damage. I can do a rapid slash if I do a charge after the reverse jump slash. I get a better interrupt on enemies. I can do a backstab thing that has a homing effect. I have, for every last hit I performed, I increase the damage done, which is kind of nice. So there's a lot of interesting things I have here. Then you also have these abilities, which show the little video, which you can kind of see behind my face there. These are different skills that use your actual mana that you're building up, or your magic. These tend to be pretty powerful things. They can be like a nice dash forward. They can be a strike where you throw a dagger and then you teleport to it. Or this final one where I get that super dagger and I am invincible for a little while. All pretty handy things. You have some basic core abilities here at the beginning, which is just kind of like the lower your HP, the more damage you deal, that kind of, basic thing. You can even replace your dodge with a different type of dodge. Some weapons have a little bit of a better tree, I would say. Like, I think Sword and Shield has a lot of variation. They let you do some things like get a frontal block when you're shield bashing. They let it make it so that when you, if you perfectly block the instant attack comes in, it won't cost any points of stamina, and it'll improve the amount of magic power you get, so you can use more mana intensive abilities. So that's pretty cool. I guess you could benefit from going to every tree to get different skills, and you could still use those skills even if you're not equipping that weapon currently, which has some use. So I could use a shield skill even if I only have daggers and swords. But it would only be the special skills, like the ones where it's like, oh, I consume mana to do something, like throw my shield at an enemy or put up like a special guard around me, like the Northwind protection thing right there, which just gives you a shield that deflects enemy attacks for a little while. So that's kind of cool. Basically, there's a lot of build variation. I think that's pretty fun. I really enjoy that. You have some basic trinkets. I haven't really found that I've messed around a lot with these. I've definitely gotten a few, but I've mostly kept the ones that give me extra effects, like more at max SP, increase the amount of EXP I receive without giving me defensive bonuses. In general, though, you can make some of these and get defense bonuses, so that's kind of handy. For me, daggers and swords are my favorite, because they just kind of flow well together. I like the ability to be speedy and then, hang back, do some magic damage, and then, finish them off with my daggers. I think that's pretty cool. Boss fights aren't too crazy hard. As you might have seen, that was kind of like a mini boss. Most enemies have some pretty strong attacks, but nothing really feels, too crazy powerful or... Oh. Well, that was the power. Ugh. Okay, I don't know if I'm still in business here. The power went out for a second there, but I have a backup generator thing, so it kept me running. So I think I'm okay. I'll just keep going because, hey, everything stayed on. But yeah, there are definitely some signs that this is an indie game. I mean, like, you start moving around. If you start reaching here, I can definitely show this one off a little bit. You can kind of see my face will start to clip through my arm at one point. Yeah, like right here. There's some pretty major clipping going on with my hand. So there's definitely some signs of like, oh, this could be tested a little bit more. Like, look at this. Like, my head is like completely through my arm right there, and it's like, yeah, it has some awkward moments, but for the most part, you really have to be looking for those things to really struggle with it. The adventure, the scope of the world, the design of it is really this nice cartoony aesthetic. I really enjoy most of the monsters. They have this kind of whimsical feel to them, despite being, ferociously tough and sometimes quite evil things. I think if you really like that Dark Souls adventure, but you kind of find that you don't want it to be so high stakes, you want it to be a little more casual with still some challenge, I think you really enjoy this game. It has that kind of PS2 era feel to it, with like this colorful fantasy adventure thing going on. I'm a sucker for Roman things and for Greek things, so it's kind of hard for me to miss. Hard for me to miss out on this kind of game. There's NPCs that definitely talk to you. There's a little bit more dialogue than you might expect. They definitely go into their lore and background, but I find that it's actually more fun because of that. Really though, I highly recommend this game. I think it's a lot of fun. I'm going to do a more of a full review once I've beaten it. So I'm going to do a kind of, definitive, like, looking back kind of series. I'm not sure what I'm going to call it yet, but on any games I beat, I'm going to do something where I kind of talk about how my, final impressions are different than my first impressions, and I'll go into a little bit more detail about why I think the game's really worth it. But for right now, I think the game plays really well. You can cancel out of attacks quite easy, which I know is very important for some people. So, no matter what I'm doing, I can cancel into my roll. There are some attacks that do lock you a little bit into them. Mostly bigger attacks, like this one right here, where I charge it up and then I unlock that attack. It will lock me in a bit, but it tends to have a high stagger, even on daggers. So the game kind of understands that, if you pull that move off, you're generally going to have a chance of interrupting the enemy. Even without pumping a lot of defense or a lot of health, you'll be able to take a few hits because you do level up your attributes. So it's not overly punishing. Even when I was kind of playing pretty poorly with that like mini boss, I took a few hits and I could just quickly heal up. They're pretty generous about the healing potions. There's just enough challenge that you'll enjoy it. So for any of you who really like the Souls genre, this is pretty fun. For people who struggle with that a bit and have always wanted to dip their foot into it, but have been kind of intimidated by the difficulty, I think this could be a really good bridge for that gap. And it just feels really fluid. The combat, I think, is more enjoyable for me than a Souls game because the weapons are clearly more designed for you to use them throughout the game, and they have a little bit more going on for them because you can unlock some depth for them, which I always enjoy. Not every move is incredibly useful. I will say that sometimes I find myself not using certain moves. There's a certain degree of jank, like the way you jump is pressing R2 in circle. You have dash attacks, which can be like this is, oh, hold on. This move right here, no, I'm failing to do it right now. This move right here, that's a dash attack. You have to sort of start running, dashing, by pushing in L3 or by pressing R2 once and then doing an attack. And then you can do that move, which is actually a pretty powerful stab. I found that this is really useful for getting in and out. Sometimes it kind of makes you feel like you need to do that, where you feel like you have to hit and run often, but really you can stand your ground a little bit more. I'm looking forward to testing out more of the weapons, and I'll report in on how they feel as well, because undoubtedly I'm going to max out some of them soon and start to be able to explore a little bit. Overall, very fun. Exploration is good. The only bad thing, I think, is that treasure chests can feel a little unrewarding because they basically always just give you materials to upgrade your main weapons. It'd be kind of fun if they had some variations on the weapons you start out with, even if they were just more aesthetic. Not that I mind the way they look. They all have a set theme. They're all pretty cool. But it'd be nice to get a little bit more. Unlocking your elements is pretty cool. Messing around with them is good, but I haven't really found that enemies feel super weak to any one element, even though they mention they are. It's hard to tell exactly what's supposed to be weak to what. I find myself using ice a lot because it has this nice effect of just being able to lay it on a pillar or a wall and it'll stay there and constantly do damage, which can be a little cheesy sometimes, but it's fun if I can set it up. It feels kind of cool. I think second to that, I probably use fire the most. You can also upgrade these elements themselves, and I've found that you get more upgrades for everything except for thunder at first, so that didn't help my use of it because my thunder was a little bit weaker than the rest, but it's kind of hard to notice. Overall, really enjoyable game. Highly recommended. I'd say you try it out. I think a lot of people are missing out on this one. I'll do another review on it later, though. I've been loving it. I get excited to play this whenever I get back from work. So, yeah, check it out.